Again, this is our called vocation as a church. The way that the church has historically talked about responding to the bodily needs of others is in the works of mercy. This is found in Matthew 25, and I'm going to invite April up to read Matthew 25. And I invite you too, pull out your pew Bibles. We're going to read Matthew 25 together, and we'll have a moment afterwards just to pause and reflect. So listen carefully and think about what this passage says about God and what it says about the way we respond to the needs of our community. So let me make sure we have a mic for you, April. We grab one? Thank you.
The final judgment. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate one from the other, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on his left. And then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Then they will answer, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you?" Then he will answer them, saying, Truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of me, you did not do it unto me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life."
Thanks, April. I think the important context for this conversation today is not the part about eternal judgment. It's really the part about how it's expected as Christians that the way we will live out our faith is in these bodily works of mercy, which we'll talk more about. But I want to just pause for a moment and have a chance for reflection for that passage. Just turn to the next few people next to you, or whoever you'd like to group with, and just have a couple minutes conversation about what this passage tells us about God and what it tells us about our role in helping our neighbor. So just take a few minutes here. Just about a minute more. right, we'll wrap up here. I'm sure there's a lot more that can be said, but let's wrap up for the purposes of moving forward. Any common themes that emerged in your conversations as you turned and talked to your neighbor? Anyone want to share? Who will be brave and kick us off? Okay.
I know, you're all shocked that I'm talking. The consequences for the faithful and unfaithful have been prepared for a very, very long time. So the activities that we're doing are not in the context of things we happen to have thought about or failed to think about. They're the in-between part of the decisive bookends of all of history.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Jessica.
Karis and I were just talking about how much it is that we often feel like we have to pray for God to give us vision because the tasks are so clear, but sometimes we're so wrapped up in all the things for us that we don't always see them.
Yeah.
And so that feels like a big part of it is God, let me see where your hands need to go because my hands are your hands.
Thanks, Jessica. You wanted to add something?
Yeah. I was just going to say there's a bad, horrible interpretation of this going around that the reference to what you do to these brothers and sisters only refers to Christians. And in response to your question about how does this reveal who God is, I think it overlooks the fact that throughout the Gospels we see Jesus say things or in the Old Testament, that God causes it to rain on the just and the unjust. And that he clearly sees it as his duty to provide for everyone.
Right.
And so I just feel like that's something that we as Christians, as Anglicans, should be specifically pushing back on and saying, no, this God cares for everyone. That's the scope of this verse that he has in mind. So
I love that. And in fact, you have all throughout Scripture calls to specifically meet the physical needs of the community beyond the faithful. And you think about Jesus, loaves and fishes is not tied to any particular faith community at this point, but we did start in a Catholic church 40 years ago, and the name Loaves and Fishes reflects the very missional element that we're talking about here. Jesus, in the story of the loaves and the fishes and the feeding of the 5,000, which is the only miracle that shows up in all four Gospels, is really showing these were people who are coming and were hungry and were learning on the spiritual side, but God first met them in their physical needs, which is, I think, a really important piece. So we're talking about a rooted in dignity, of course, expressed through action and caring for the whole person. And when you think about that very question through the historic lens of the Christian church, we are inheriting a long tradition of Christians who have believed that this passage in Scripture, combined with the other verses that reference responding to physical needs of our neighbors, is a call to us as a church. It's called the Corporal Works of Mercy, and it's something that shows up in medieval art. There's lots of great art if you want to look at this in lots of different contexts, localizing it within a particular country, a point in time. What does it mean to live out these corporal works of mercy in a particular space? And that's really fun if you want to look up some of the art along what we're receiving through time. But again, hearkening back to Matthew 25, this is in the gospel. It's tied to what we are called to do as Christians. Bury the dead was actually something that the Christian church added at a later point, but all of the other ones are directly referenced in Matthew 25. And they're in parallel to the spiritual works of mercy, which are maybe ones that we hear about in other ways. How do we help spread the gospel? Well, it's all tied together with how we respond to our neighbors' physical needs. And there's some really great quotes by the saints. If you want to look these up, it's very beautiful to see how Christians have been thinking about feeding the hungry and responding to physical needs over time. John Chrysostom, if you cannot find Christ in the beggar at the church door, you will not find him in the chalice. And I know that we have another quote that I actually just heard at an Epiphany service from Matthew Milliner. If we could get a microphone, why don't you just say it really loud? Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, from John Chrysostom's homilies, it is a greater miracle to feed the hungry than to raise the dead. Wow.
And I think it can be really overwhelming when you think about this. I know, to your point, Jessica, we're all busy in our daily lives, and it can feel really overwhelming when we think about feeding the hungry or any of the other things we've just talked about. And so I love Mother Teresa in her wisdom gives us this call: if you cannot feed 100 people, then feed just one. And in any given day, that might be feeding your kids. I mean, that is a direct physical call, right? But it's also an invitation to just look around you and see those in your community who have a need and to meet it. And one of the things I love is this is not something we do in a vacuum. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Churches have organized groups over time. Many have become nonprofit organizations now who are doing this work in more sophisticated ways, using innovation and systems to just more effectively and efficiently meet the need in our community. And we'll talk more about that. Oh, and I want to add, too, that we're very honored at Loaves and Fishes that All Souls has chosen us as a mission partner. I know Jennifer and Father Rob have been a big part of that, and the vestry as well. And I also want to give a shout out to David and the youth who have been very active 3 times over the past year, coming to volunteer with us at Loaves and Fishes to really be the hands and feet of Jesus in our community. So more to come on that. So let's talk a little bit about Loaves and Fishes. So I shared we're the largest food pantry in the state. We started 40 years ago in a closet in a church. It was a church community who saw a need and wanted to meet it, and it has grown since that time. Our mission is to provide healthy food and impactful programs to promote self-sufficiency. So healthy food, we're really focused on making sure people have the food they need and want. And when we survey our clients, they want access to things like protein, milk, eggs, fresh fruits and veggies. Those are things that many of us take for granted, but we all see as we go to the grocery store, those items in particular, prices have continued to go up. The impactful programs we'll talk about in a little bit. And self-sufficiency, that might mean different things for different people. We have some people who are disabled, seniors, others on a fixed income. They will need Loaves and Fishes on an ongoing basis. There are others who have experienced a job loss, a death in the family. 60% of Americans could not handle a $1,000 unexpected bill. And there are a lot of people in our community that are just barely making it, and something happens and they need to come to us for a short period of time. So our goal is to help them get through that and then get the resources they need to get back up on their feet. As I mentioned, we're serving 1,000 people or more each week. It depends on the week. And this fall, with the SNAP disruption, we saw a surge in people coming to us. We're here for the need, and we mentioned the 4 counties that we serve. So what is the need? And again, it might not be as obvious for many of us just in our day-to-day lives. Food insecurity in our community has increased by more than 50% in the 4 counties we serve since 2019. We are serving now 3 times the number of clients that we were serving in the beginning of 2022. Hunger is all around us, even when it's not obvious. So 1 in 5 people in the 4 counties we serve are living in low income or in poverty. Poverty is a number that the federal government establishes. For a single person, that's about $15,000 a year. It goes up depending on your household composition. Low income is adjusted more for cost of living in your community. And we'll talk more about that too. So of the people we serve, we see that 100% of them can't afford groceries, and we do ask for their income information when they come to us. But 3 out of 4 don't qualify for federal assistance for food, which is called SNAP now. And that's because SNAP starts at a pretty low level in our community, and cost of living here is really high. I'm sure you all know this, right? We all experience it. So just as an example, a family of 3 in DuPage County needs to earn almost $90,000 a year to meet basic expenses of housing, utilities, food, transportation, medical insurance, et cetera. Yet SNAP income eligibility ends at $44,000 a year for that same family, to just make it a little bit more tangible. Now, there are people who might be earning on the higher end of that who can make things work. They might also have savings or other things they can tap into, family networks who can help if they have that $1,000 unexpected emergency. And that's great. But there are a lot of people on the lower end of that who are closer to that $44,000 a year level in this group. who, if something happens, they don't have anywhere to turn. And that's where Loaves and Fishes and other nonprofits in our community step in. And I'll just mention, too, I think it's helpful to know that SNAP benefits, really the highest benefit you can get, is about $8 per person per day. And you think about what things cost. I mean, even going to Starbucks and getting a coffee is $5. Those are people who are not going to Starbucks and getting a coffee, but how do you really feed your family on that amount? So the cost of living is continuing to go up. Wages relative to inflation have been stagnant, and this is the issue that we're seeing. Also, you might be following the news on the federal level. There have been reductions to SNAP benefits, and Crain's Chicago has published analysis of the impact in Illinois. Just as context, about 42 million people nationally are on SNAP benefits. In Illinois, it's 1.9. In DuPage County, it's 76,000 individuals who are in that bracket. In the state of Illinois, with the cuts that we're seeing, 1 in 5 people who receive SNAP in Illinois now are at risk. So about 360,000 people, as we head into this new year and the years to come, are at risk of losing their benefits. So we're already at an all-time high, and we are expecting to see an increase in need. So what does this mean, right? These are stats, and it's hard to really think about what this means at the human level until you really drill down. Hunger does not look just one way. It's all around us. It's in our communities. It's on our campuses. And I'll just give you a sense of what this looks like. So working families at Loaves and Fishes, about 60% of the families we serve have a child under 18 in their household. Grandmothers, we have a large group of seniors who we are serving on a regular basis. People who have some kind of emergency in their life and need to turn to us. And this is actually one of our clients, Ginger, who previously supported Loaves and Fishes, but experienced an unpaid medical leave, has children with disabilities, and had to come to us for food. And I'll say, just on a personal level, when I first got connected with Loaves and Fishes, I was a volunteer, really fell in love with the organization, then worked for a corporation that was providing funding to Loaves and Fishes and got to know it on a deeper basis then was invited to join the board. And so I knew a lot about Loaves and Fishes and the numbers and the impact, and I had seen behind the scenes how we were making it work. But I will never forget driving, when I joined the staff 2 years ago, driving to work that first week, right before Thanksgiving, and seeing the line of cars waiting to come into the parking lot, pulling into my parking spot, and seeing the moms and their kids, the seniors, the people who are there waiting in a long line, and the faces of the people who are coming to us. On a human level, the neighbors in our community who have the need. And that's why we're really focused on what we can do to make a difference. We know that food insecurity is just one piece of this. It's usually there are complicated situations that people are coming from. But if you're food insecure, you're likely to have health issues, which makes it difficult to keep and retain a job, which then makes it hard to earn the income you need to buy the food you need. It's a really vicious cycle. And some of the stats here are really amazing when you think about the impact. Food insecurity increases the risk of depression and anxiety by more than 250%. It drives nearly 50% higher emergency room visits, and it's just correlated with all of the chronic health conditions. So if we can intervene in the food space, we can have a bigger impact on people and their lives beyond food. And Loaves and Fishes, we've talked a little bit about us, and this is a picture of our second location at Fifth Avenue, but we started small and have gotten bigger over time. And our whole focus is on making sure we're addressing the whole person, because we know food is not usually the only issue that people are facing. And I'll just give you a fun fact here. 20 tons of food are distributed each day across the locations where we're distributing food. That's a lot of food. So I mentioned those wraparound services. We merged with another organization about 6 years ago, which allows us to provide wraparound services. And that includes physical health. So in addition to food, we're providing nutrition education, vaccine clinics, connections. We work with other hospitals too. Endeavor Health, Rush Copley are referring patients to us. We have a collaboration with Rush Copley where if a patient identifies as being food insecure, they leave with a bag of food from Loaves and Fishes and a referral for our services. So if you're going in for an oncology visit or pediatric visit, you can leave with food that day. We are also in the financial health space. This is a really big one for us. We provide emergency assistance to keep people housed and keep their utilities on. We find that once you've been evicted from your home, you have lifelong challenges with finding housing. And so this is a critical piece for us, keeping people housed and keeping people with their lights and their electricity. You think of this time of year, getting your heat turned off is not good. But beyond that, beyond the emergency assistance piece, we're also looking for other ways to help people. We refer out to other nonprofit organizations as well who are working on budgeting, financial literacy. There are a lot of components to making sure people have the financial health they need. Employment health, right? You can't have an income if you don't have employment. We have a career coach who's available to work with clients who have identified this as an area that they need to work on. We also work with many other nonprofits that are in this space and are dedicated to this work. Part of this is English language classes. We have a partnership with College of DuPage where clients can get free English language instruction on our campus. In addition, mental health. We talked about the interconnection between mental health and food. And so we are actively working with mental health providers. We have actually a new pilot program where we have mental health counselors on site. So if a client comes in and identifies a mental health need, they can get services right at Loaves and Fishes. So a little bit of context for our work. Last fiscal year, we distributed almost 9 million pounds of food focused on healthy foods in the MyPlate categories. That's vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean protein, and dairy. We served almost 500,000 people. Those are unique visits. And that just shows you the volume of people who are coming to us. We added more weekend hours and evening hours. Most of our families work multiple jobs. They work really hard. And so we want to just be accessible when they need the food. We distributed $1.5 million in emergency assistance funds. We had a great partnership with DuPage County this year that allowed us to significantly increase our funding, keep more families housed. We also offer connection to public benefits in the long term. We more than doubled our English language classes, financial health, and our CAR program. Transportation is a big issue for getting to a job. And so if you know anyone who has a car they're looking to get rid of, let me know. We do have a program where we refurbish cars and distribute them to clients who have gone through budgeting process and other programs to help them make sure that they can continue payments on insurance for those vehicles. So it's a really great program that helps people get to work. And we also have a VITA program. So if anyone in here is an accounting math person, those talents are welcome. We have a really robust volunteer income tax assistance program that last year returned $2.5 million to low-income neighbors in our community. Our model is unique. When I first got into the food insecurity space, I had a vision of what a food pantry was. And it was a little closet that might have like a couple of refrigerators and a freezer, but it was a very small scale. I had no idea until I got connected to Loaves and Fishes that the model could be very different. Our hub and spoke location allows us, with the star here on the map, we have a 30,000 square foot facility in Aurora where we source food, pack and distribute it out to our Naperville market, and an additional 12 spoke locations across our community. So our client choice market is about the size of a Trader Joe's. It's in Naperville. It's where my office is. You're welcome anytime. I would love to show you. Online ordering is something we offer out of our hub location, which is that star. We also bring online orders to specific communities, like Endeavor Health has a location in Plainfield where their patients can order food and we deliver to them. We talked about curbside prepacks. This was something that happened in the food insecurity space. I think back in the day, there was no client choice. Everybody got a box. And then there were a lot of strides to a client choice model in the charitable food system. And then with COVID, everybody had to go back to those curbside prepacked boxes. We've gone back to client choice, but we do have still some clients who prefer, for ease of use, just to go through and get a box that's a nice array of healthy food, and that's available for people in our community. We talked about the hospital partners, faith communities. So we work with St. Therese in Aurora and Compass Church in Bolingbrook, two very high-need communities, leverage a lot of Spanish-speaking volunteers and parishioners at those faith communities who are helping get food out to their neighbors in a very direct way. We work with a school. There aren't many food deserts in our community. Really, a lot of it's cost of living. But there is a food desert in Lockport that we are serving through a school where all of the families in the school are low income, and there was a need that the school administrators identified to feed those folks. And what I love about this model is it's allowed organizations and communities who have identified a need and want to help to not have to reinvent the wheel. You know, we don't need hundreds of little food pantries. They have their place. But I love this model because it allows us, with our expertise and know-how on the food distribution side, to partner with a local community in getting food there. It's a very efficient model too, and so we'll talk about that and what the impact has been just briefly. So we've been able to expand access through the hub and spoke model. It just started about 4 years ago. Expanded and scaled our operations. We talked about serving 3 times the number of clients. We would not have been able to meet that increased need without our change in model. We've also been able to reduce our cost to serve each client by 40%. It's a much more efficient way. We don't have to have bricks and mortar pantries all across the community. We can leverage those sites that exist and get them the food they need. It's also, and I'll just mention, this is so exciting to me because I love collaboration, to work very closely with other pantries. All the pantries in our community are experiencing increase in need and challenges in accessing food. So we've been able to facilitate co-buys with other pantries to get food at lower cost, to partner with Northern Illinois Food Bank in unique ways, and to help ensure that our whole ecosystem from a charitable food perspective is elevated, which we love, and we love working with our partners. And we talked about healthy food. Healthy food requires cold storage, and cold storage is expensive, and not all pantries have it, so it's something we're really working on building. So I'll just note, you might have seen in the news, if you follow these things, that Loaves and Fishes is working now on doubling the size of our hub facility. We just got a large grant from Endeavor Health as the funds to help us move forward with this project. And it will allow us to double or triple the number of clients we can serve and add new spoke locations across our service area. So we're very excited about that. These are pictures, some of these images of our hub facility and volunteers who are working behind the scenes to get the food ready to go out to our clients. And again, we talked about the broader charitable food system. No one can solve hunger alone. This is a really complex issue, and it requires multiple organizations, it requires the government, it requires us as neighbors paying attention and caring for our communities. So this gives a little sense of where we're headed with our Hub 2.0 facility. So what does all this mean for us? Again, this can be a very overwhelming topic. We talked about just food insecurity today, but we know that there are 7 corporal works of mercy. So where do we play in, and what is our role? So I wanted to leave you with a little food for thought and action, talking about ways you can get involved, whether it's at Loaves and Fishes or any number of our All Souls mission partners, or your own nonprofit of choice. So I would invite you to first learn more. If you're interested in food insecurity or Loaves and Fishes, we have an e-newsletter that goes out once a month. It has a nice roundup of information and news articles related to our work in food insecurity in our community. I'd invite you to do that. Also, social media is a great way. We post a lot on social media. I would love for you to follow us there. Spread the word. So if something here stood out to you, you didn't realize the food insecurity rates were as high as they are, I invite you just to initiate a conversation, talk about that with folks in your family and your community. I love that so many families here are very intentional about bringing their kids into our work and inviting them to be part of the Souls on Mission. Again, thanks to David for that, to the youth, Father Rob and Jennifer. It's really exciting to see. Volunteers. So Loaves and Fishes relies on over 1,200 volunteers a year to do our work. That is the equivalent of about 50 full-time staff people. and we only have 38 full-time staff, we would not be able to do this work without volunteers. And I'll say for those of you who have a little more time and space in your schedules, it's really easy to sign up to be a volunteer. You can do that right on our website, loaves-fishes.org. And once you sign up, you go through an orientation, and then you have access to our app, which means you don't have to be available at a particular spot every week to volunteer. You can just go on our app and say, hey, oh, I got a free morning next Friday or Saturday. I'm happy to help. What's the need? And you can just easily sign up, which is a really nice thing we hear from our volunteers. We also have groups that come in from corporations, faith communities. We'll talk more about All Souls. So giving back is really helpful. Give, too. I mean, All Souls is contributing financially to our work, which we're very grateful for. Faith communities, and I'll say this is really wonderful to see, whether it's the Islamic Center of Naperville or the faith communities all across the spectrum of the Christian faith, serving and helping our work. It's a really powerful witness to our community that faith communities are stepping up. And also we have a virtual food drive. I know many of you might have organizations that want to do a food drive here or there for an organization. Physical food drives are great. Virtual food drives actually allow us to leverage our purchasing power to buy more food for the same amount of money that you would spend if you went to a retail store. So consider that too. If your school PTA is like, we want to do a food drive, consider using our virtual food drive as a great way to do that. And before we wrap up, I'd love to invite Ella and Livy just to come up and share a little bit from a youth perspective. We've got a few minutes here. We'll do maybe 3 minutes or so, and then leave just a couple minutes for questions.
Good morning, everybody. So me and Olivia are part of the All Souls Youth Group, and as one way we serve the community, we go and volunteer at the hub that Megan was just talking about. It's really important work because they could not do this without volunteers to pack their food. And you get to help people that are in your own community, not just people that are very far away from you, like some other food pantries. We go to the warehouse location and sort and pack the food, and it's so easy. You just get to pack the food and you can talk to your friends while you're doing it. It's also kind of satisfying to organize the food and very helpful to the people there. The food that you pack is going to families in need, and this is really special to them, so it feels very important work that you're doing. I definitely highly recommend this experience.
My name is Olivia. Our youth group. Okay. Our youth group has decided to start volunteering at Loaves and Fishes. We've already been 2 or 3 times, and the moment we're done with the day's task, we tell David to hurry up and get us another slot because we have so much fun. We really enjoy it, not only because the experience, but also knowing that it's really helping people. And I think that lots of people probably think that volunteering, especially to package food, would be boring or tedious, but it's actually really fun. Our youth volunteers together so you can talk and look in amazement at the huge quantities of canned tuna together with your friends. It's pretty awesome. It was a great experience, and you should definitely volunteer at Loaves and Fishes. You should also do it while they're packaging apples, because that's really fun. You get to find the good ones and the bad ones, and it's good. It's really therapeutic, actually. But also before we volunteer, the volunteers show us how we're helping. And when you volunteer for Loaves and Fishes, you aren't just having fun. I mean, you can, of course, if you want to. But you're also helping so many people feel loved and comforted, even though their lives may be hectic and hard. So I think it's really special.
So yes, volunteering is definitely really important, and our youth group has really enjoyed it to minister to the community, and I definitely recommend it if you guys are thinking about volunteering.
Round of applause. Thank you. And I do want to just localize this briefly. Among our spoke locations are the Marion Park Apartments, just right down the street, low-income people and seniors, where we bring food. We also bring food to Canticle Apartments, which is also near Marion Parks. That's another spoke location where we're providing food to people with disabilities and people who have HIV/AIDS, just right here in Wheaton. If you look at West Chicago, we had over 20,000 people who were impacted at Loaves and Fishes. So it's not just Naperville, Aurora, it's all across those 4 counties that we talked about. Any questions before we wrap up? Yes, Brad.
Have cuts to financial aid by the U.S. government made a change?
Yes, and I'll share. It was a really crazy fall for Loaves and Fishes and anyone in the food insecurity space with the federal shutdown. In 1 week, we had 700 new families register for food. That's 2,500 new people when you think about 10,000 people a week that we were serving. And what was really hard, we had our front desk, I was talking with one of my colleagues, was getting calls from moms just sobbing on the phone, not sure how they were going to feed their families. So cuts or just even delays, temporary gaps, cause real harm and are really challenging for our neighbors. Thankfully, we were there. The county called us. We were able to respond very quickly to the need. Because of our hub and spoke model, we had some flexibility to adapt and bring more people in. But not all food pantries can just increase to meet the gap. So it has had a big impact. Yes. Elizabeth? Mm-hmm.
Megan, this is so encouraging and such a wonderful thing, and I like all the things you put there that we can do. And I hope you'll find it okay if I say this. You talked about government help. We've talked about government cuts. And I think one other thing that we might be able to do is influence the government, our representatives, by talking about what this means. And there's an organization, a Christian organization called Bread for the World, or online it's bread.org, that we have supported quite a while. And they are like kind of spearheading a lot of advocating for the hungry with the politicians. So if you want to get involved with that and check that out, bread.org, if you're the kind of person who likes to do that, it might be a help too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll say food insecurity has historically been a bipartisan area where both sides of the aisle come together and support. I think it really runs deep that this is an issue both sides of the aisle have cared about. So I appreciate those comments. And I do think spreading the word is a great way to be an advocate, to make sure that folks know. We regularly meet with our elected officials to help update them on what we're seeing on the ground. Good. Go ahead.
Social worker here. I just want to piggyback off of Elizabeth. In just some like adjacent food insecurity, adjacent to what you're talking about, of like there are some other things that I think people can do. One of which is like the school lunch program. Make your kids get school lunch sometimes, because I have seen it in places where school lunch becomes stigmatizing when it's free, and kids don't want to. Kids get to an age where they don't eat the school lunch because they don't want people to know they're getting it for free. So if you need to pay for your kid to get school lunch, sometimes do it, so that it's not just the free and reduced kids eating the lunch.
I love that. Yeah. Go ahead.
My previous job, I worked in a middle school, and I ran the district's school food pantry. But I also worked with, every child I worked with was getting free and reduced lunch. And so many middle school kids would not eat the lunch because they didn't want their friends to know they were getting it for free. So that's just like an adjacent thing.
Yeah.
Pay for the kids' lunch. Don't pack them lunch every day. If they'll eat the school lunch, make them eat the school lunch. It's good for them. And also an advocacy of like, the more people who are eating it, the better the food gets. And also encouraging people who are eligible for government benefits, if they're eligible for SNAP benefits, don't encourage them to take advantage of that. WIC benefits as well. The WIC criteria is higher than SNAP, so like at a higher income level, people are still eligible for the WIC benefits. And those first 5 years where they can get extra healthy food options for their kids are, as I'm sure we can all understand, the most important years to get some nutrition into your children. Encourage people to take advantage of those benefits, because if no one's taking advantage of them, they get reduced.
Yeah. I
The
think that's
government
good.
eliminates them if they're not being used. So the more we can advocate for, you qualify for them, please get them, please use them. That tells our government that we need it, and that people are utilizing it, and that it's better for everyone if we're providing nutrition to those in our community who are most vulnerable. So that's
Right.
my
Thank you. I appreciate you adding that. And I'll say dignity in all of this is super important, right? We feed people in the way that Jesus would feed people, right? With true dignity. And I'll say that one of my favorite stories is one of my colleagues went to school. He was presenting on loaves and fishes. And a little kid, this was elementary school, raised his hand and was like, "My family shops at Loaves and Fishes." And he didn't know the difference between going to Loaves and Fishes and going to a grocery store. And that is our goal because of the dignity issues that we just talked about. This should be an opportunity for all families to get the help they need. All right, I think that's a wrap. Thank you all so much. If you have questions, come find me. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. If you don't mind a concluding collect. And also just next week, Luann Huska is going to be here talking about something also of vital importance, creation care. So we encourage you to come back too. Megan, this was just so powerful and so moving. And along with everything that all of you said too, a collect. O Lord, our Heavenly Father, whose blessed Son came not to be served but to serve, we ask you to bless all who, following in his steps, give themselves to the service of others, especially loaves and fishes. Endue them with wisdom, patience, and courage, that they may strengthen the weak and raise up those who fall, and, being inspired by your love, may worthily minister to the suffering, the friendless, and the needy, for the sake of him who laid down his life for us, your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.